It was a beautiful, serene day. My sweet daughter held my hand, looking up at me with a bright smile. My loving husband stood beside me, and I felt a deep sense of contentment. But that blissful moment was interrupted when I saw him. "Hey, long time no see," he sneered. It had been years since I'd seen Ian, my ex-husband. He approached us with a smirk that I knew all too well. "Did you have a baby? At your age? An old woman like you." "If I were your age, I wouldn't even think about becoming a mother." "That's none of your business. Leave us alone," I said firmly, trying to walk away. But Ian blocked my path, his eyes raking over me in a way that made my skin crawl. Then, as if he couldn't hold it in any longer, he burst into cruel laughter. "You're old, you know that? How disgusting. And you," he said, turning to my husband, "you're her new husband. You must be out of your mind if you don't know what's good for you. I can't believe you married this old hack." His insults seemed endless. My patience wore thin, and I felt my fists clench in anger. But before I could react, my husband, Wesley, who had been standing calmly beside me, spoke up. "Ian, right?" Wesley said, his voice steady. "Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. You've given us a lot to consider, and you're absolutely entitled to your opinion. I am Quinn. I met and married Ian while working at a company where he was a section manager, my subordinate. After we got married, I was eager to start a family, but at 34, I struggled to conceive, so I turned to infertility treatments. It was a long, challenging journey, but at 38, I finally became pregnant. The joy of knowing I would become a mother was overwhelming. It was my first pregnancy, and I was aware of the risks at my age. Still, I juggled work and preparing for the arrival of our child with determination and hope. I had countless worries, but the joy and happiness of finally carrying the child I had long dreamed of outweighed them all. I was filled with anticipation, believing I would create a happy family with my child and Ian. But Ian wasn't as sure. Fertility treatments were expensive, and I spent most of my pre-marriage savings on them. The side effects often left me physically unwell, making it difficult to maintain the same workload I had before marriage. So I decided to change jobs. The job change meant my salary was cut in half, but it allowed me to work less and focus more on the fertility treatments with a clear mind. However, Ian grew distant. The truth was, Ian had been attracted to me because I was ambitious and earning well before we got married. There was no sign of marriage in my future at the time, and I was on the path to success at work. He noticed my financial stability, which was his main reason for marrying me. When I told him I wanted to have a baby and subsequently changed jobs to focus on the treatment, Ian was unforgiving. He couldn't accept the shift in our circumstances and the cost of the fertility treatments. Eventually, he handed me divorce papers and left. I was stunned at how quickly our marriage fell apart, but I knew I had to be strong for the child I was carrying. I had to raise her well, even on my own. I explained my situation to my company and worked tirelessly. With the support of my parents, I managed to give birth to my child. When I finally held my baby girl in my arms, I felt like the happiest person in the world. Tears of joy streamed down my face, but the only one happier than me was my new husband, Wesley. I had met Wesley as a business partner at my former company. We had a good professional relationship, and he was genuinely disappointed when I resigned. A while later, we crossed paths again at my current company, where we once again became business partners. Wesley knew about my struggles and was always kind and concerned about me. We had always thought well of each other, and it wasn't long before our connection deepened into something more personal. Before my daughter's birth, I remarried Wesley, and the next few years were filled with happiness. Wesley adored my daughter, Ruby, even though she wasn't his biological child. His care for her was almost overprotective. After I gave birth and fell ill, Wesley insisted that I take it easy. He took on most of the housework and cared for Ruby with a tenderness that showed just how much he cared for both of us. One day, we decided to take a walk in the nearby park. The weather was perfect, and Ruby fell asleep soon after we arrived. As we strolled through the park, I noticed a familiar figure walking ahead. My heart sank. I quickly took Wesley's arm, trying to steer us in the opposite direction, but it was too late. The person had already noticed us and was approaching with a smirk and a nasty smile. "Long time no see," he said. I recognized the voice immediately. "Ian, long time." "Did you have a baby?" he asked, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Yeah. Got a problem with that?" No, I'm just wondering how an old woman like you could be a mother. That's none of your business. Leave us alone, I replied, trying to remain calm. But Ian blocked my way, his gaze sweeping over me with a look of contempt. Then, as if unable to hold back, he burst into cruel laughter. You're too old to be a mother. It's disgusting. His words seemed endless, and when he glanced into the stroller, his sneer deepened. Your kid, she's ugly just like you. Don't you dare say another word, I warned, my voice trembling with anger. I could tolerate insults directed at me, but when someone mocked my child, it was too much to bear. Ian narrowed his eyes in amusement as I took a step forward. Before I could say anything, he quickly shifted his gaze to the side, locking eyes with Wesley, who stood right beside me. I can't believe anyone would marry this old hag, Ian sneered, and she's got a kid with someone else too. Really, stop it, I snapped. It's got nothing to do with you. Ian ignored me, his smirk growing as he continued. Well, Gwen, you made a lot of money. That's all you were ever worth. Without that, there's no reason anyone would want to be with you. My ex-husband then turned his attention fully to Wesley, inching closer with a devilish grin. In this world, everything is about profit and lust, brother. Only fools who don't understand that end up like Quinn here, quitting her job to have a child. Those who don't get the game of profit and loss are destined to fail. You better watch out too, Mr. New Husband. Maybe you're the kind of person who doesn't understand profit and loss either, marrying someone like Quinn. Ian's loud, mocking laughter echoed through the peaceful park. His words, spoken in front of me, my child, and Wesley, were unbearable. I clenched my fists, unable to tolerate it any longer, and was about to confront him when Wesley, who had been silently observing the situation, gently restrained me. Quinn, wait. Calm down, Wesley said softly. Wesley, I can't stay silent after being told something like that. I protested. I understand how you feel, he replied, his voice calm and steady, but violence isn't the answer. Wesley smiled at me reassuringly, and I slowly lowered my fist. Quinn, he asked gently, do you know this gentleman? He used to be one of my subordinates at the company I worked for. I replied, deliberately leaving out the fact that Ian was my ex-husband. I didn't want to admit that I had once been married to such a horrible person, but Wesley already seemed to understand. He smiled knowingly and nodded in understanding. So it was you, Wesley said calmly, then turned to me. Quinn, take care of Ruby for me, okay. He handed me the stroller and stepped forward, positioning himself between us and Ian. Wesley looked directly at Ian, his usual soft smile never wavering. Ian, right? Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. You're absolutely right. Profit and loss are very important, not just financially, but also when it comes to the people in our lives. Sometimes it's wise to think in those terms. What you said is reasonable and important. Ian, misinterpreting Wesley's words, grinned even wider. Well, you're not as stupid as I thought you were. Then you shouldn't be with Quinn, you know better. He shot me a smug glance, then put his hand on Wesley's shoulder, assuming he had found an ally. But Wesley brushed Ian's hand away, continuing calmly. You know my father owns a business, and in business, calculating profit and loss is crucial. That's why I'll definitely share what you said today with him. Ian, still not grasping the situation, asked with a hint of curiosity. Is your father present? If you want, I can talk to him directly, Ian offered, his eyes lighting up with the prospect of a potential opportunity. It was obvious he still craved money and status, despite the way he had just mocked me. I was beyond amazed at how quickly he could shift his demeanor when he saw a chance to gain something. I know you're probably busy, Ian, so I'll let my father know. I'm sure he'll be in touch with you soon, Wesley replied smoothly. Well then, I'll leave you alone for today, Ian said, clearly satisfied with himself. With that, Wesley gently took Ruby and me by the hand and led us away. As we walked past Ian, he glanced down at me with a look that almost resembled pity. I couldn't help but feel a small pang of it for him as well, knowing that Wesley's offer wasn't what Ian imagined. Ian's naivety in taking it at face value was almost admirable. What Ian didn't realize was that Wesley's father was the president of a company that held significant sway over the firm Ian worked for. Wesley, although not working in his father's company at the moment, was gaining experience in the business world on his own. This was likely why Ian had no idea who Wesley really was. I had only learned about Wesley's background just before we got married, and his parents had been nothing but kind to me. When they found out I was pregnant with my ex-husband's child, they didn't reject me. Instead, they supported me through the challenges of raising Ruby, and Ruby quickly grew attached to them. It was heartwarming to see them play together, forming a bond that only deepened over time. If my father-in-law had heard what Ian said today, I knew there would be serious consequences. And as expected, the very next day, Ian went to work, only to be summoned by his furious boss. The president of the company, who happened to be my father-in-law, had personally complained to Ian's boss, calling him out by name. My father-in-law, well aware of the circumstances surrounding our divorce, was outraged. He wasted no time in making a phone call to Ian's superior, emphasizing Ian's poor attitude and the importance of properly educating employees. Ian had no idea what was coming, and it was clear he had underestimated the situation entirely. My son told me that one of your employees lectured him about the importance of profit and loss. You should carefully consider how much profit or loss you might incur from one person's mistake, my father-in-law had said to Ian's boss. When Ian's boss confronted him, Ian finally realized the gravity of the situation and decided to call me. "Hello, Quinn. I'm sorry," came Ian's voice over the phone. I was taken aback by the unexpected apology. I knew he might reach out eventually, but I hadn't expected it to happen so soon. The urgency in his voice was clear as he continued to apologize repeatedly. "I'm really sorry. Please forgive me," he pleaded. "Forgive you?" I thought to myself. "After you mocked us like that? What's wrong?" I asked, a hint of sarcasm in my tone. "Did you hear from my father-in-law?" I could hear him choke on the other end, clearly unsettled. "Yes, he gave me your kind advice. I'm really sorry." "I apologize," Ian stammered. "I'd like to apologize to your current husband and the president in person." "Did your boss tell you to do this?" I asked, seeing right through his sudden remorse. "Yes," he admitted, sounding desperate. "I was told not to return to the company until I apologize in person and get your forgiveness. Please help me. We were married once." His voice trailed off, filled with desperation. "Please, Quinn." "Quit it." I cut him off, my voice firm. "You've only ever seen me as someone who earns good money, haven't you? Now you're getting carried away, trying to crawl back when things go wrong. You were the one who said it's all about profit and loss, right? Well, for me, it's a loss to keep you anywhere near my husband and father-in-law. Talking to someone who made fun of my daughter and my husband, it's nothing but a waste of time for me." I paused, letting the words sink in. "So, if you understand, don't call me again." No, Ian's voice grew more desperate. But I hung up before he could finish. He had said countless horrible things to me over the years, and while I might not have said everything I wanted to, at least now, I felt a small sense of satisfaction. I could only imagine the panic Ian must be feeling at this moment. Not long after, rumors about Ian's behavior began to spread throughout the industry. He had always had a tendency to look down on others, and his reputation had never been good. When we worked together, I often found myself cleaning up his messes. But after I left, there was no one to cover for him anymore, and frustrations with Ian began to build both within his company and outside it. Then this incident happened. Ian's boss was furious with him. My father-in-law's company was one of their biggest clients. In the end, Ian couldn't stay at the company and ended up quitting. Now he was struggling to find a new job. One day, I received a long email from Ian, begging me to help him find work. In one part of the email, he even wrote, "I know I said some terrible things, but I really love you, Quinn." How disgusting. I had heard rumors that after our divorce, Ian had started dating a much younger woman. But now, with no job and no prospects, he seemed lost, unable to find his way back to the life he once had. So she left him. It's true what they say, you get what you deserve. Ian kept sending me emails, insisting, "I want you to help me because it's your fault I'm in this pitiful situation," or claiming, "You should help me because I still love you." It's the very definition of karmic retribution. I've been ignoring all the emails, but lately the frequency has been increasing. I'm seriously considering blocking him altogether. Meanwhile, I'm still living a happy life with my loving husband Wesley and our daughter Ruby. Recently, Ruby has started talking, and I can't take my eyes off her. She's growing up so fast, and Wesley, my in-laws, and I are all so in love with her. I want to keep